The sky ignited like a second sun. Captain Mara Shade Lawson squinted through the specially tinted visor of her tactical helmet as the horizon transformed into a wall of blinding white. She'd been expecting it. Intelligence had warned about Celestari light-based weapons, but nothing could have prepared her for the raw intensity. Her squad's protective gear was cutting-edge military tech, designed to filter the most extreme light conditions, yet the radiance penetrated like needles through her retinas. "Status report," she barked into her comm, forcing her voice to remain steady despite the searing pain behind her eyes. The replies came in fragments, broken and distorted. Communications were failing. Not just comms, everything. Mara watched as the fleet of stealth aircraft above Manhattan began to wobble in formation, their navigation systems overwhelmed by the atmospheric light distortion. She'd never seen anything like it. "Fall back to Checkpoint Delta," she ordered, making the executive decision as the ranking officer on the ground. "All units maintain physical contact. Electronic guidance is compromised." The Celestari had arrived 6 months ago, their massive light-emitting vessels positioning themselves in low Earth orbit, like artificial stars. They'd come with offers of enlightenment and technological exchange, but their true intentions became clear when governments that refused their terms experienced mysterious power grid failures and communication blackouts. Now they had launched what intelligence was calling the global illumination, a coordinated light energy surge that was overwhelming Earth's defense systems worldwide. Mara led her team through the streets of Lower Manhattan, navigating by memory as their tactical displays flickered uselessly. Civilians huddled in doorways, their faces twisted in pain as the unnatural light penetrated buildings, vehicles, even the underground subway stations. Some wore makeshift eye coverings, anything to shield themselves from the assault. "Captain," rasped Sergeant Reena Patel, stumbling slightly as she kept pace beside Mara. "Our thermal imaging is gone, night vision useless. Even basic targeting systems are malfunctioning." "They're neutralizing our advantage," Mara replied grimly. "Every system we've built relies on controlling or enhancing light." It was a staggering realization. Humanity had spent millennia conquering darkness. Fire, electricity, digital displays, advanced optics, all meant to banish shadows. The Celestari had simply taken that dependency and weaponized it against them. Checkpoint Delta was a converted bank vault 20 feet below street level, one of the few places where the tactical team could regroup without constant exposure to the Celestari light assault. As the heavy door sealed behind them, the sudden dimness was almost disorienting after the blinding conditions outside. "Systems check," Mara ordered, removing her helmet and rubbing her reddened eyes. The vault's emergency lighting cast everyone in a soft blue glow, the only illumination source that seemed to function normally. "Half our equipment is fried," reported Nix, their communications specialist, whose real name few people knew. Her fingers flew across multiple keyboards as she attempted to restore their network. "They're broadcasting on frequencies that interfere with silicon pathways. It's like they studied every weakness in our technology." "What still works?" Mara asked, focusing on solutions rather than catastrophizing. "Analog systems," came a voice from the back of the vault. Dr. Ezra Kim emerged from behind a partition where he'd been examining damaged equipment. The Korean-American scientist had been attached to Mara's unit when the first Celestari contact occurred. "Old tech, mechanical operations, anything that doesn't require complex light-based sensors or fiber optics." Mara nodded slowly, an idea forming. "And what about the opposite approach? Can we use darkness as a weapon?" The room fell silent as the implications settled. It was counterintuitive. Humans had feared darkness since prehistoric times. It was why they built fires, invented electric lights, developed night vision. The darkness represented vulnerability, the unknown danger. "I've been developing something," Dr. Kim admitted, moving to a reinforced case in the corner. "The Pentagon thought I was wasting resources, but I've been studying Celestari physiology from the specimens we recovered in Arizona." He unlocked the case, revealing what looked like a small satellite dish with a matte black surface. "I call it a dark field generator." "What does it do?" Sergeant Patel asked skeptically. "It doesn't just block light," Kim explained, his excitement growing. "It creates a field of active darkness, a space where photons are actively absorbed and neutralized. Not just visible light, but across the electromagnetic spectrum." Mara stepped forward, examining the device. "And you think the Celestari are vulnerable to darkness?" Kim nodded emphatically. "Their entire biology is photosynthetic. They don't just use light as a weapon, they need it to function, to think, maybe even to exist." For the first time since the Celestari attack began, Mara felt something beyond determination: hope. "How quickly can you produce more of these?" "With the right resources, weeks, maybe days," Kim said. "But this prototype has limited range, maybe 30 feet at maximum power." Mara straightened, decision made. "We're going to need a lot more than one, and we'll need to test it immediately." She turned to the gathered soldiers and specialists. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now the Nocturnals, and we're going to teach these light-worshipping aliens why humans used to fear the dark." The vault erupted in determined activity as Mara outlined her plan. If light was the enemy's strength, darkness would become humanity's shield and its sword. The first field test of the dark field generator took place 3 days later. Mara selected an abandoned subway station on the Lower East Side that intelligence reported was being used as a Celestari observation post. The aliens had established monitoring stations throughout major cities, each emitting distinctive light patterns that seemed to function as communication nodes. "Remember, we don't know exactly how they'll react," Mara cautioned her strike team as they prepared to move in. "Dr. Kim's prototype hasn't been tested against actual Celestari physiology. If it doesn't work, we're basically walking into a light grenade with sunglasses," muttered Sergeant Patel, checking her conventional weapons. Since the global illumination, traditional firearms remained among the few reliable combat tools, though targeting systems were compromised. Mechanical firing mechanisms still functioned. "That's why we're keeping this simple," Mara replied. "Team 1 creates the distraction. Team 2 deploys the dark field. I lead Team 3 for the specimen recovery." Questions? There were none. The Nocturnals had trained extensively over the past 72 hours, running drills in simulated darkness. What had initially felt disorienting, operating with minimal visibility, had gradually become their advantage. They'd learned to navigate by touch, sound, and memory, while the Celestari remained dependent on constant illumination. As they approached the station entrance, the distinctive glow of Celestari technology pulsed from below, streams of light in patterns too regular to be natural, too complex to be human-made. Standing at the top of the stairs, Mara activated her throat microphone. "Execute Operation Nightfall." The distraction team moved first, rolling specialized smoke grenades down the stairs. Unlike standard military smoke that merely obscured vision, these contained particulates designed to scatter and refract light, creating disorienting patterns that intelligence suggested would confuse Celestari perception. The response was immediate. Beams of concentrated light shot upward through the smoke-searching patterns that sliced through the air where Team 1 had deliberately made noise before taking cover. "Darkfield Team, go," Mara ordered. Team 2 advanced halfway down the stairs, positioning at the calculated optimal range. The lead operator activated Kim's prototype, and something extraordinary happened. A sphere of what could only be described as concentrated darkness expanded outward. It wasn't merely the absence of light, it was as if a piece of midnight had materialized in the subway entrance, absorbing every stray photon. The effect on the Celestari was immediate and dramatic. The searching light beams became erratic, jittering wildly, before intensifying, pouring more energy into the darkness, as if trying to burn through it. But the dark field simply absorbed the increased output, growing stronger and more defined. From within the darkness emerged sounds Mara had never heard before, high-pitched frequencies that human ears could barely detect. The Celestari were communicating in distress. "Team 3 with me." Mara commanded activating her helmet's audio enhancement, while keeping visual systems offline. The Nocturnals had discovered that in perfect darkness, their other senses sharpened remarkably quickly. They moved through the Darkfield's perimeter, entering the subway platform, where 3 Celestari observers had established their monitoring station. In the absolute darkness, Mara could only perceive them through sound, rapid movements, and those high-frequency communications growing increasingly disorganized. Celestari physiology resembled bioluminescent deep-sea creatures from Earth, with translucent tissues that normally pulsed with internal light. But inside the Darkfield, they were effectively disabled, their light-based neural networks unable to function without photonic energy. "Specimen secured," announced the collection specialist after a brief struggle. "It's dormant, I think. Not fighting anymore." "Station control panels accessed," added Nix, who had accompanied Team 3 to extract data. "Downloading what I can, but their systems are weird. Like the hardware itself is partially organic." Mara checked her chronometer. 2 minutes until extraction. Plant the charges." The demolition expert moved efficiently through the darkness, placing explosives around the Celestari equipment. They couldn't risk leaving the monitoring station intact, even disabled. "All teams fall back," Mara ordered, as the timer reached 30 seconds. They retreated through the Darkfield, the captured Celestari specimen, secured in a containment unit specially designed by Dr. Kim to maintain zero-light conditions. As they emerged onto the street, the Darkfield generator was the last item extracted before detonation. The explosion was strangely muted, much of its energy absorbed by the station's underground location, but effective. One Celestari observation post eliminated one specimen captured for study, and most importantly proof that their weakness could be exploited. "It worked," Sergeant Patel said, the astonishment clear in her voice, as they regrouped 6 blocks away. Mara nodded, already planning their next move. "Now we need more generators, a lot more." The next 2 weeks saw the Nocturnals execute increasingly ambitious operations across New York City. With each successful mission, Dr. Kim refined the Darkfield technology, while military engineers mass-produced the devices based on his evolving designs. What began as one strike team expanded into a coordinated resistance movement. Similar groups formed in other major cities, as word spread through secure channels about the effectiveness of darkness against the Celestari. Their biggest breakthrough came from studying the captured specimen. Under controlled dark conditions, Dr. Kim and his science team made a critical discovery: Celestari neural pathways required photonic stimulation to maintain consciousness. In sustained darkness, they entered a state similar to suspended animation, not dead, but completely incapacitated. They evolved on a planet with multiple suns. Kim explained during a strategy session in their expanded headquarters, now a repurposed server farm 50 feet below the financial district. Their world never experiences true darkness. Their entire civilization, biology, technology, it's all built around constant light. "So darkness is literally their kryptonite," Nix remarked, looking up from her array of monitors. The hacker had managed to partially decode Celestari communications, revealing crucial information about their command structure and deployments. "More importantly," Kim continued, "we've determined that they can't perceive or process information in darkness. It's not just uncomfortable for them, it's like they cease to exist cognitively." Mara studied the tactical map where known Celestari positions were marked throughout the city. "We need to take out something bigger than observation posts. Something that will get their attention." "I've identified a primary node," Nix offered, highlighting a location near the harbor. "It's what they call a light heart, essentially a regional command center. Taking it out would disrupt Celestari operations across the entire Northeast." "Security?" asked Sergeant Patel. "Heavy," Nix admitted. "And it's generating enough light to power a small city. Our current Darkfield generators aren't strong enough to neutralize that level of output." Dr. Kim cleared his throat. "Actually, I've been working on something." He brought up schematics on the main display. an array of synchronized generators designed to create overlapping fields. Theoretically, it could create a darkness zone powerful enough to engulf the entire facility. "How many would we need?" Mara asked. 50 minimum, and they would need precise placement to create the effect. Mara considered the logistics. 50 teams moving simultaneously into heavily guarded Celestari territory. The risk was enormous. "We've got 37 operational generators right now," Patel noted. "We'd need to pull units from other operations, delay our scheduled strikes." "Or accelerate production," Mara countered. "How quickly can we get to 50? 3 days, Kim said. "Maybe 4. Mara made her decision. "We move in 5 days. That gives us 1 day for testing and final modifications plus time to brief all teams." As the others began discussing tactical details, Mara stepped away to study the harbor map more closely. The Lightheart facility had been established on a decommissioned oil platform, giving the Celestari a defensible position surrounded by water. Approach would be challenging, but not impossible. "Something troubling you, Captain?" Dr. Kim asked, joining her at the map station. "This is going to cost lives," Mara said quietly. "Even with perfect execution, we'll lose people." Kim nodded solemnly. "The alternative is worse. The Celestari aren't just occupying, they're transforming. Have you seen the atmospheric readings? They're altering Earth's upper atmosphere to allow more solar radiation through. In months, the surface will be uninhabitable for humans." Mara's jaw tightened. "Then we'd better get this right the first time." The planning for Operation Eclipse consumed every waking hour. Mara insisted on redundancies for every aspect: backup teams, alternative approach routes, contingency extraction plans. Nothing could be left to chance. The darkfield generators themselves underwent final modifications to enhance their range and durability. Dr. Kim worked tirelessly, often falling asleep at his workstation, only to resume the moment he awakened. When the night of the operation arrived, Mara addressed the assembled nocturnals, now numbering over 300 personnel, drawn from military and civilian expertise. "Tonight, we strike a blow that the Celestari cannot ignore," she began, her voice carrying through the underground chamber. "Each of you knows your role. Each of you understands the risks. What you might not fully grasp is what we're fighting for." She activated a display showing satellite imagery of Earth's night side, once a tapestry of city lights, now dominated by the harsh uniform glow of Celestari installations. "Humanity has always pushed back the darkness," Mara continued. "We've told ourselves that light represents civilization, progress, safety. But tonight, we embrace the darkness as our ally. We reclaim the night that is our birthright." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathered forces. "The Celestari believe we fear the dark," she concluded. "After tonight, they'll understand that darkness is where humans become most dangerous. Move out." The first phase of the assault began at midnight. Diversionary teams struck multiple Celestari positions throughout the city, drawing attention and resources away from the harbor. Meanwhile, the main infiltration force approached the Lightheart facility via a combination of submersible vessels and low observable aircraft operating at wavetop height. Mara led the central assault team, guiding them through predetermined blind spots in the Celestari defensive grid that Nix had identified. The platform loomed ahead, a tower of pulsating light that reached hundreds of feet into the night sky. Primary teams in position came the coordinated reports through their secure communication system, hardwired fiber optics that replaced vulnerable wireless transmission. "Synchronized darkfield deployment on my mark," Mara ordered, checking that her team's generators were ready. 3, 2, 1, execute. 50 darkfield generators activated simultaneously in a carefully calculated pattern around the Lightheart facility. The effect was immediate and spectacular, a cascading wave of darkness that swept upward and inward, enveloping the Celestari command center like an expanding ink cloud. The light from the facility fought against the encroaching darkness, creating a dramatic battle line between radiance and shadow. For several tense seconds, It seemed the Celestari might overpower the dark field array through sheer luminous output. Then, the balance tipped. The overlapping fields reached critical density, and darkness consumed the light heart. The massive column of light that had projected into the sky winked out, plunging the harbor into natural night for the first time in months. "Advance!" Mara commanded, leading her team toward the now darkened platform. The Celestari response was chaotic. Accustomed to overwhelming enemies with light-based weapons and sensory overload, they found themselves suddenly blind and disoriented. Some attempted to generate personal light fields, but these only made them targets for the Nocturnal's conventional weapons. Mara moved efficiently through the facility, her team securing key sections, while the science division under Dr. Kim headed for the central control chamber. They had trained for weeks to operate in these conditions, developing a fighting style that utilized the darkness rather than trying to overcome it. "Captain," Kim's voice came through her comm. "We've reached the command core. It's remarkable. Their technology is integrated with biological components, all photosynthetic in nature." "Can you access their systems?" Mara asked, dispatching a Celestari guard who had blundered into her position. "Working on it," came the response. "Their interfaces aren't designed for human operation, but Nix thinks she can establish a connection through their emergency protocols." Mara continued her advance toward the upper levels, where intelligence indicated the Celestari leadership would be located. The darkness was their ally, allowing her team to move virtually undetected while the aliens stumbled blindly. On the command deck, she encountered the first organized resistance Celestari elites, with modified armor that generated faint illumination fields. They fought with desperate intensity, seemingly more afraid of the darkness than of their human attackers. "They're protecting something," Sergeant Patel observed, as they pushed forward against stiffening opposition. "That chamber ahead, it's got to be important." Mara nodded. "Concentrated approach, I'll take point." The final barrier was a massive door, emitting a faint luminous outline. Unlike the organic architecture that dominated most Celestari construction, this appeared to be reinforced with conventional materials, as if they'd adapted human technology for their own purposes. "Breaching charges," Mara ordered. The demolition specialist moved forward, placing shaped explosives at key structural points. The blast was controlled and precise, creating an opening just large enough for their team to enter in tactical formation. Inside, they found what appeared to be the Celestari command staff, and at their center, a figure different from the others. While most Celestari resembled elongated translucent humanoids with internal bioluminescence, this one was more substantial, with armored segments covering vital areas. Even in the darkness of the dark field, it maintained a faint phosphorescent glow, enough to reveal its position, but not enough to restore its full capabilities. "Supreme Commander Solari Zen," Mara stated, recognizing the entity from intelligence briefings. "Your invasion has failed." The Celestari leader made a sound that the translation algorithms interpreted with difficulty, something between a hiss and electronic interference. "Failure. Temporary." It managed the words, stilted through the translation system. "Light, eternal. Darkness, passing condition." "Not for you," Mara replied, motioning her team to secure the command staff. "Not anymore." As the Celestari leadership was contained in specialized dark chambers, Mara received word from Dr. Kim. "Captain, we've gained access to their network. It's incredible. We're seeing tactical deployments, worldwide communication protocols, even biological data." "Download everything," Mara ordered, "then prepare the facility for demolition." "Wait!" Kim's voice took on an urgent tone. "There's something else. They've been monitoring us too, studying human circadian rhythms, sleep patterns. They're developing a counteroffensive. Some kind of darkness weapon." Mara froze. "They're weaponizing darkness against us." "Artificial darkness," Kim clarified. "Not like our dark field technology, which creates true absence of light. This is more like a simulation designed to trigger human fear responses and psychological breakdown. It was a sobering revelation. The Celestari were adapting learning to use humanity's primordial fears against them, just as the Nocturnals had exploited the aliens' dependence on light. "How close are they to deployment?" Mara asked. "Based on these files, days, maybe less." Mara made a quick decision. "Change of plans. We're not destroying the facility, we're capturing it intact. I want every piece of their research secured and transported back to base. If the Celestari were developing new weapons, the Nocturnals would need to stay ahead of them. The war for Earth's future was evolving. The operation to secure the Lightheart facility took several more hours, but by dawn, the Nocturnals had achieved complete control. The destroyed Celestari Command Center created a visible gap in their network, a dark spot in the otherwise illuminated harbor that symbolized the first major human victory. As Mara watched the sunrise from the platform's observation deck, Sergeant Patel joined her. "Command wants a situation report. The President's asking for a briefing. Tell them we've captured the regional Celestari headquarters, along with valuable intelligence and prisoners, including their Supreme Commander," Mara replied. "And tell them we've confirmed that darkness is our most effective weapon." Patel nodded, then hesitated. "There's something else. The blackout we created, it's spreading. The Darkfield technology somehow interfered with the Celestari network. Lightheart facilities in Boston and Philadelphia have experienced failures. Their whole command structure is destabilizing." Mara allowed herself a brief smile. "Then we push the advantage. Immediate deployment of all available Darkfield generators to strategic targets. Let's show them what happens when you try to outshine humanity." The weeks that followed marked a turning point in the Celestari conflict. Operation Eclipse became the template for a global counteroffensive, with Darkfield technology shared with resistance groups worldwide. What began as a desperate gambit transformed into a coordinated strategy. Dr. Kim's research team made continuous breakthroughs, studying both captured Celestari and their technology. The most significant came from analyzing the biological components of their systems, revealing that the aliens had not merely developed light-based technology, but had evolved as partially photosynthetic organisms. "They don't just use light," Kim explained during a global strategy conference. "They are light at least partially. Their neural networks utilize photonic transmission rather than electrochemical signals like human brains." This insight led to the development of what Kim called ideal darkness technology environments that selectively block the specific light frequencies Celestari required for consciousness, while allowing enough illumination for human operation. Meanwhile, the captured Supreme Commander Solari Zen became an unexpected source of information. Initially resistant, the Celestari leader gradually began communicating more openly after Mara implemented a protocol of alternating light and dark periods, demonstrating that humans could control both conditions. "Your species, adaptable," Zen acknowledged during one interrogation session. "Not expected." "You thought we feared darkness," Mara replied. "You didn't realize we conquered that fear millennia ago." "Conquest temporary," Zen countered. "Fear remains beneath. We observed your literature entertainment. Darkness always. The adversary." Mara couldn't entirely disagree. Human culture had indeed portrayed darkness as something to be overcome, controlled, eliminated. Yet, when pushed to extremes, humanity had reclaimed its ability to thrive in darkness, perhaps even discovering advantages their light-dependent civilization had forgotten. "Maybe we needed the reminder," Mara said more to herself than to the alien prisoner. The global counteroffensive against the Celestari reached its climax 3 months after the capture of the New York Lightheart. Coordinated attacks using advanced Darkfield technology neutralized major alien installations across 6 continents simultaneously. Without their command structure and faced with a weapon that exploited their fundamental biological weakness, the Celestari invasion force began a disorganized retreat. Their massive orbital vessels, once positioned like artificial stars above Earth's major cities, broke formation and moved to higher orbits beyond the reach of the ground-based dark-field projectors humanity had begun deploying. Victory celebrations were tempered by the knowledge that the Celestari still maintained a significant presence in the solar system. They might have been driven from Earth's surface, but they were regrouping, adapting, and humanity needed to prepare for the possibility of renewed conflict. In the temporary headquarters established in the reclaimed United Nations building, Mara reviewed the latest intelligence with her expanded command staff. The Nocturnals had grown from a single strike team to an international special forces division recognized by all major governments as the leading authority on Celestari countermeasures. They're establishing a defensive perimeter at the L2 Lagrange point. Nix reported displaying the orbital tracking data. Our analysis suggests they're constructing a new type of light amplification array, potentially capable of bypassing our dark field defenses. Options, Mara asked, looking around the table. Dr. Kim activated a holographic display showing a modified satellite design. We've developed orbital dark field platforms based on the Celestari technology we captured. They can be deployed to create a protective umbrella around Earth, essentially establishing darkness as our global defense system. And for offense, Sergeant Patel inquired. Now a full colonel, she commanded the tactical division of the Nocturnals. We've adapted their own light-focusing technology, Kim explained. Combined with our dark field generators, we can create directed energy weapons that essentially project concentrated darkness, capable of neutralizing their ships without destroying them. Mara studied the proposals, weighing the implications. We're not looking to annihilate them, she decided. We need to demonstrate that we can defend ourselves, then pursue diplomatic options. Negotiating from strength, Colonel Patel agreed. The orbital defense system was deployed over the following month, a constellation of satellites that could generate overlapping dark field effects, creating a protective darkness shell around Earth when activated. Its first test came when a Celestari vessel approached low Earth orbit, apparently probing for weaknesses in the new human defenses. Mara personally oversaw the response from Space Command headquarters in Colorado. Activate targeted dark field projection, she ordered, as the alien ship entered range. Minimal power. This is a demonstration, not an attack. The effect was immediate and visible, even from the ground, a cone of absolute darkness extending from Earth to envelop the approaching vessel. The Celestari ship's systems faltered immediately, its light-based propulsion and weapons disrupted by the targeted absence of photonic energy. After 17 minutes of sustained dark field exposure, the ship transmitted a request for communication, the first formal diplomatic overture since the invasion began. Supreme Commander Zen, still in protective custody, but now serving as a consultant on Celestari behavior, was permitted to participate in the negotiations. The dialogue was halting, at first complicated by fundamental differences in perception and priorities, but slowly progressed toward understanding. They offer technological exchange. Zen translated from the Celestari transmission. Light manipulation advances for darkness control protocols. They want our dark field technology, Dr. Kim clarified. It's completely foreign to their development path. Mara considered the implications. They're afraid of us now. We've demonstrated a capability they can't counter. It was a significant reversal from the initial invasion, when humanity had been overwhelmed by Celestari light weapons. The negotiations extended over weeks, gradually expanding to include representatives from all major Earth governments. The central challenge was establishing peaceful coexistence between species with fundamentally different environmental needs. The Celestari required constant illumination, while humans had rediscovered the value of darkness. A breakthrough came when Dr. Kim proposed the concept of safe darkness to the Celestari delegation-controlled environments, where darkness could exist without threatening their consciousness. It was the inverse of the lighting systems humans had developed to make darkness comfortable and navigable. Your species feared darkness, created safe light, Zen observed during one session. Now teach mine to accept safe darkness. The final peace treaty established boundaries between Earth and Celestari territory, along with protocols for controlled technological exchange. Most significantly, it recognized the right of both species to maintain their preferred light-dark conditions within their respective domains. 1 year after the New York Lightheart operation, Mara stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Earth-Celestari exchange station in lunar orbit. Through the specialized viewing ports, she could see Earth below its night side, now a balanced pattern of illumination and darkness, no longer dominated by artificial light. "Quite a view," remarked Dr. Kim, joining her at the window. "Hard to believe that a year ago we were fighting for survival." Mara nodded. "Harder to believe that darkness became our salvation." She gestured toward the station's central hub, where human and Celestari representatives were finalizing details of the first joint scientific mission. "They're already adapting learning to function in controlled darkness, just as we learned to create controlled light." "Balance," Kim said thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's what both our species needed to learn." As Earth rotated below its terminator line, separating day from night, Mara reflected on the transformation that had occurred, not just in humanity's relationship with the Celestari, but in their relationship with darkness itself. For millennia, humans had pushed back the night, treating darkness as an adversary to be conquered. The Celestari invasion, for all its destruction and suffering, had forced them to rediscover the power and protection that darkness could provide. Now, as Earth rebuilt and adapted, night had regained its place in the natural order. Cities had redesigned their lighting systems to preserve areas of darkness. New architecture incorporated shadow as an essential element rather than an obstacle to eliminate. Even human sleep patterns were shifting back toward more natural rhythms after generations of light pollution. "Captain Lawson," a junior officer approached, interrupting her thoughts. "The Secretary General requests your presence for the treaty signing." Mara took one last look at the night side of Earth, its patterns of light and shadow, now a symbol of humanity's resilience rather than its vulnerability. "Darkness isn't something to fear," she said quietly. "It's something to understand." As she turned to join the diplomatic proceedings, Mara felt a deep satisfaction. The Nocturnals had begun as a desperate tactical response to an overwhelming threat, but they had evolved into something more profound, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength lay not in conquering nature's cycles, but in embracing them. The darkness once banished by human ingenuity had returned as an ally, and Earth was stronger for it.